It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Ari Livne. We're in your beautiful home here in Tel Aviv. And Ari, you were born in Austria, and then you were in Belgium and France, and your story about the Shoah is one of the most incredible stories I've ever read and heard. And it is such a privilege to be with you today. So if you could just mention a little bit about your family history and a bit about what happened to you.
Well, I was born on the 15th of March 1935 in Vienna. I was the only son of Saren Elish Lipa. After the Anschluss, we decided that we have to leave because most Jews left at that time.
Can I ask, do you remember?
No problem.
Do you remember when the Anschluss happened?
No.
And
I have a few pictures in my head, but I don't know exactly what to do with them because I was only 3 years old. But I remember my room, and I remember the red car I was driving in my room, with my feet. There are a few, and I remember that I fell from the desk in the shop. I've got a sign until today, but that's all. What I do remember is when we left in September 38, we left Austria, illegally we can say. I don't know, my parents didn't have all the papers because we finished in prison, so that's why I know that. And we traveled by train, we traveled with lorries, we traveled, we went a lot of walking, and my father held me on his shoulders, and we slept in forests. This is what I remember. We slept in forests, on the ground, and we also had a few what do you call it?
Cases,
cases. No,
luggage,
cases.
a bit of luggage.
The minimum they could have taken, they have taken with them. So they had to live. They had to have all these things together with them all the time. And we spent some time on the way until we finished at the border between Germany, Arnhem, and the area of Liège in Belgium. My parents wanted to arrive in Belgium. I've been in Belgium, in Antwerpen, but in Belgium, many years ago when I was an elder person, and I met there quite a lot of Austrians. So I believe that the first Austrians tried to flee to Austria and try to find a life, a possibility to live there without too many problems. That's what happened to my parents. We arrived at the border of Arnhem, Germany, and Liège, Belgium. And then I remember that we were in prison, but I remember every detail in prison. I was 3.5 years old. And I remember my father knocking on the door, "Water for the kid, water for the kid." I remember that very well. We had only one bed, and we were free, and we slept in this bed in the prison, small, normal prison. And we were interrogated. How do you say?
Interrogated.
Interrogated. And when I actually didn't speak about this, what happened to us. I almost never spoke from the Shoah because I had nothing to do. And besides, I was busy with my life, with my kids, with my professional life. And I knew that it's not good to think too much about the past. So I said, I didn't want to talk. I put it aside. I didn't hide anything, but when somebody, or even the kids, asked a question, I answered. But actually, it was not an issue. It was not an issue. When I wrote my book, I started thinking of writing a book. I was about 70 years old. I had more time for myself. And I also saw my grandchildren. And I thought that they really were little kids, when they were 8 years old, 9 years old. That's a man who can also marry, and I think that I could have lived now when I was 9 o'clock. Well, when I was 9 years old, and so we had to. We had to remain a few days in this prison. I asked, when I wrote the book, I asked for some documents on my family, about my family and about myself, in Belgium, in Austria, and I received a lot of documents. I have a lot of documents, which will be now in Yad Vashem. It interested them. But it's especially interesting for the family. And there they gave me the details, because I never spoke with anyone about this prison business. I remember myself in prison. I said that we were in prison. I didn't know where. But it all was true, and also said in September 38. And suddenly we received the result, the interrogation, all the details. They sent it. They had it in their offices in Belgium, and they sent it to me. There's a man who was very, very nice, whom I now knew. And he sent me all these documents, whom nobody else knew about, and so it confirms that I really was in prison with my parents for a couple of days. These were the first days, because we tried to cross the border, illegally. And
Ari, can I just ask?
And you have this letter, you have this document in the book, at the first pages.
If you could show a picture of your parents, because you have a wonderful picture.
This is a picture of my parents, who married in December 33.
And you have a picture of you and your parents.
This is their marriage.
Yeah, that's their marriage.
Of course. And this is the marriage of my aunt Hanale and Salomon. Salomon is the younger brother of my mother.
If you can.
The couple was close to my parents all the time. They were with us in Belgium. They had no children. They made me babysitter, and this was my world. All these years, I didn't know any kid. I didn't have any friend. The only person I know were my parents and my uncle and my aunt. And they suddenly were caught in August 42 and disappeared. I didn't see them anymore, and I was very, very close to them. I still was with my parents in 42. In 33, my father and my mother called me. They were very official, and they said that we couldn't live anymore together.
This is in 43.
This was in 33, the beginning of 33, and they have found a lady in the not far from Brussels. Actually, it's part of Brussels. It's quite huge, Brussels. Woluwe-Saint-Lambert. It's a rural. It's quite rural. It's nice houses, middle class people.
If we could just, before
very nice
could we just
lady.
show a picture of you and your parents?
This is the only picture I have, actually, the three of us. That's the only picture I have. I don't have too many.
So this is a picture of your parents
Of my parents
in
and
Antwerp.
me in Antwerp.
1940.
And before the war, probably in 30.
This is in 1940. 1940.
39 or 40
Yeah, in 1940 in Antwerp.
in Antwerp.
And this is the only picture.
This is the only picture I have with my parents.
So your parents sat down with you. You remember? You remember the meeting? They had like an official meeting with you.
Now, I just want to say something. I think the same day or one day later, we took by tram. You know, you say tram. We take a tram and with two suitcases, and we went to her. It was a nice house. I had a room for myself. An old lady, she was 40 years old, 40 and something. But at that time, I really was. I was just 8 years old. It was when at my anniversary. It was in March, I think, 43. And my parents took me. They remained a few minutes, and then they said, "Okay, no, you will. This is where you live. You'll live like a Belgian. You like all the other kids, normal life." And my father said, "But never forget that you're a Jew. But don't talk about it. You keep it here, very, very deep in your heart. And but you are a Jew." And they went. And they went to back to their house. We had a house. Before that, during in the beginning of the war, we arrived in 48. We arrived in Brussels. We took a house, and the man who hired his house for us in Brussels told us every time.
In 38. In 38.
This was in 30. This was when the war from 41 to because we left Antwerp. What happened in Antwerp, I don't know, but nothing. Actually.
Did you go to school or?
I didn't go to school. I was too young. I was 6 years old in 41. In 41, we arrived to Brussels. I started to go to a school, probably a Jewish school. Very little time. I have almost no remembrance of that. And then Jewish schools was forbidden. They closed. And it was dangerous to go to a normal school, and my parents decided I wouldn't go to a school anymore.
And
we spoke German. I didn't know French.
This is when you're in Brussels, in Antwerp.
Yeah,
in Antwerp.
Antwerp and Brussels. I didn't know French, and every time, every 2 or 3 months, the man who hired his apartment to us said to us, he knew that we were Jews, said to us, you have to be careful, you have to flee away because there is an action here in the area. A lot of for Jews, they're looking for Jews. So we left, and we took rooms, you know, on the last floor, with a window on the roof.
Like an attic. An attic.
An attic, actually, and with a small bed, and you know, we had two suitcases with some plates, three plates, or 4 plates, and glasses. And, you know, you notice everything when you have a few things. You know? And I spent there almost 2 years by myself, with my parents who came back at home in the evening or in the afternoon, and I sat in my bed. I was not allowed to play with other kids. There were other kids in the house. I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to leave the room.
And what did you do during the day?
You know the name of my book. I had a soldier like this. You know, I had a soldier in tin.
If you can take a seat, Ari can take a seat. So this is the English translation of your incredible book called Tin Soldier in a Cardboard Box. And you had a little tin soldier.
Hmm?
You had a little tin soldier.
Yeah, and I had a box.
A cardboard box.
A cardboard box, really. And it was green. and this is what I played with. And then I drank a lot, and you know, until my parents called me and said, no, we can't live together anymore.
And can I just mention, did you speak a lot with your parents during this time? Did they tell you stories?
I don't remember. I believe that my mother I always ask myself, where did I learn French? And where did I read? Where did I learn to read and write?
Most probably your mother was teaching you.
I think so, because I remember that I was sitting in the room with my mother sometimes.
And did your parents speak about Judaism or the holidays or?
Holidays?
No, but the Jewish holidays of Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah.
Before, when we still were together, there was a rabbi who came to our house in Brussels already to teach me, Judaism. But after a while, my father decided it's too dangerous, you know, because somebody can take him. They saw that he was a rabbi, you know. But he decided that they shouldn't come anymore. That was the end of my.
But it's amazing that your parents hired this rabbi to come and teach.
My father was religious. I had. That's what my aunt told me. I had an uncle, a grandfather who was a rabbi, Kalman Lipa, from Galicia. That's it.
And when your parents sit with you and they tell you that it's too dangerous and you have to now...
It's too dangerous to be together, and I have now, that's the only possibility, with a very nice lady who has a son who's 10 years older than me. And
how did you feel when?
And then I went.
How did you feel when they told you?
You don't feel too much. You don't try to feel.
Could you understand?
You have to stop everything. You have to close everything. It's very special, you know. You have to forget. You have to. I was very sad. You know, I was. You're going to. Your parents said, okay, so we'll come to visit you once a week. They came to visit me once a month because it was very, very dangerous. And they didn't want to bring people, to this place. They wanted the place to remain clean. And so they decided not to come very much. They came about 4 times, 3-4 times.
And it was a very special lady.
And one day they stopped coming, that's all. And I remember this last, I showed her exactly the place in the entrance of the school. And I told my mother cried because I said that they leave me alone, they forgot me, and as a kid can be very, very nasty.
But you were young, you were so young, and
I was nasty. I was 8 years old. And okay, they stopped to come. And the lady was an amazing lady, but I hated her at the beginning. I hated her, really. I did, because it was not my mother. And her son, who was 18 years old, remained with us about 1 month, 1.5 months.
And was he friendly to you? Was he
very nice? He was very nice, and then he went. And he said we should make a kind of shelter, in the hole,
like a pit,
big hole,
a pit.
at the end of the garden. And so we work and we prepare. So because if Germans should go amongst, I should run there and remain there. So we did that with him. We put 2 or 3. It's like my English is going. Things like this,
like wooden planks,
in order not to get too wet, at night or something. And this is a place. This is something I did with a son. And then he went to the resistance and to the army, and until the end of the war.
And
I didn't see him anymore.
And her husband,
I didn't. Yeah, she had I knew that she had a husband. I never asked. She never gave me an answer. After the war, it happened that he arrived, and he arrived from London. He was in London during all the war, the whole period. Maybe he was in Dunkirk. That's a possibility. I don't know exactly.
And
a very charming person.
Was she warm to you?
She was not a warm person. She was a very special person. I've seen her after the war, and I loved her. We went together. I was not in Belgium. She was an amazing person, very cold with cold nerves. Very courageous.
Because she actually risked her life to save.
Yeah, definitely. She risked her life every second.
And here's a picture. Ari, can sit? Ari,
that's it. And I called her Aunt Angel, Doda Angel, Aunt Angel. Because her name was Angel Muldermans. Kloof Muldermans.
I'm just going to... And how did your parents know her? Or how did they manage to...
I never knew until a couple of years ago. Arrived here a lady into Jerusalem, in a hotel in Jerusalem. I forgot the name of the hotel. There were a lot of people, tens and tens and tens of people like me who were held in Belgium. And she was one of the big boss of the resistance. And she said that she has the books where the person, the Belgians, the Goyim, registered to help hiding or to take a Jewish kid, and I succeeded. Everybody wanted to know. I succeeded to talk to her, and she said yes. Angèle Mulderman, so she was. But she actually decided that she'll risk her life until the end of the war. That's something crazy. It also cost a lot of money. So she received some money at the beginning, but not very much. But she was all the rest. It was, I don't know exactly where the money did come from because she didn't work. I don't know, as far as I know. At least. I actually at that time I didn't ask myself all those questions. I thought about myself more than.
And eventually she was given Chassidah Mot Olam at Yad Vashem.
Yeah, definitely.
So Ari, you have in your book. You have in your book. This is from the school. A picture of the. This is where your last meeting with your parents.
The side gate of the school where I used to meet secretly with my parents, and the place where I last saw them.
If we can show,
they didn't allow me. They didn't want to see me outside, and they thought a problem. So they took me, and I ran after that. I hid behind the trees until they got this place.
If we could just show the picture. Amazing. And Ari, I know it's difficult, but could you mention a bit about the last meeting that you had with your parents?
Yeah, this last meeting was a horrible meeting.
Obviously, you didn't know it was
when I was
the last
there,
meeting.
I didn't suffer particularly. I was angry at them because they left me here alone, and they said they would come every week, and they came once a month. It was a problem, and then I had to leave them there. I didn't leave them, I just jumped behind the trees, and there was nobody. And then they entered the tram. Until they entered the tram, I saw them. I accompanied them. That's the last moment, And then they disappeared. The tram disappeared, and then I came back home.
Sorry, can we just mention?
I was angry. Actually, I started thinking of how selfish I was when, and my mother wept a lot at that time. So that was a bit difficult. And my father, didn't speak almost. Tried. It's a terrible thing for parents. If you think about that, terrible thing for parents. But it's a very special period where you live for yourself, and very selfish, very very hard. We get. It's not a nice period.
And Ari, with your parents, it's also very difficult. What happened to them? Is it possible just to relate what happened to your parents? What happened to your parents? They unfortunately somebody informed.
Okay, so all the war, and then
you didn't know that this was going to be your last encounter and meeting with your parents. You had no idea, obviously. After
the war, means in July 45. I remember, it was crazy. People were crazy. Were so happy, and I was very, very much affected by that, and I couldn't be happy. I almost regretted the period of the war, because then I had something to fight for, and and behave, as you should. After that, I knew that I'll be confronted with truth, what really happened to them and to Hanale and Salo. These were the two couples which I cared for, and every day. This was the most difficult period of my life, because I tell you, as long as you fight, you don't feel it. It's like everybody, in the army, in any place. When you fight, you're okay. When you have nothing to do, and you know that you will get within a moment, within 1 month, 2 months, you will get the answer. What happened to them? I hoped that they would live. I didn't know if they were in Russia, if they were. We didn't know. I went every day to the Red Cross, and I also waited for a letter which could arrive, maybe. Every day, and this was I was busy with that. And after about 1 month, I went to Brussels. I took the tram to Brussels, and they gave me the list, and they were killed in Auschwitz, both of them. Both of them, Hanel and Salo, my uncle, and my mother and grandfather. All the details, transport number 21, everything.
And you found the site straight after the war when you went to Brussels?
After the war, when I went to Brussels, I was 10 years old.
Did you go by yourself, or?
Usually by myself, yes.
I did very courageous. You were
Pardon?
a 10-year-old to do this. It's incredible.
Yeah, you don't think about all these things.
And when you
saw... kid can get along, he can get along.
And when you saw...
That's why I told you when I saw my grandchildren, I said, it's impossible, It's very strange, but okay, it's good.
How was the feeling when you saw the list, and your parents were on that list, that they were killed? It must have been devastating.
It's quite devastating. But again, at a certain moment, I came to the conclusion that there's no point going on and mourning. We can say mourning, because there's no point to that. I was very practical, And Tante Angèle too. She had a few problems during the. We had some. There were some periods where it was very, very dangerous. Almost the Germans came to visit me. I was in the hall. They were 1 meter in the hall, and I was in that hall. Very unpleasant things which happened.
You also had an informer.
There
was an informer on your street.
No, they drink. They came at 11 o'clock at night. 2 or 3 soldiers and an officer, lieutenant, and but there were a few very unpleasant. I write about this in the book. Not all of them. So it was quite dangerous. It was quite dangerous. Suddenly, there's no danger anymore.
But Ari, can I just ask, with the danger and inside where you were living in that area, there was also one of the neighbors was an informer.
That's
and you once saw him, and he.
Yeah.
If you could mention, because that is the most incredible how you dealt with it.
I wrote about that. Yeah.
Could you mention a little bit?
Definitely. There were a few informers. There were about 4, I think. I don't remember. But and the Belgians hated them. All the other place, it was like a village. They all knew each other, one another, and the most dangerous was an informer who lived about 2 houses from ours. It was known, and one day he came to Tantangel, and who is that? What's that kid in your house? Normal wife, when there's no war, she could have said, "No, get out from here. That's not of your business." But that would be provocation. And a war declaration was dangerous to say that, and she understood that she has, to get out of it, joking, and she had a very, very strong sense of humor, and but she said everything, and we decided together that I would be the son of Aunt Angèle. Aunt Angèle's sister in I forgot the city, in another city in Brussels where I was born. I had an identity card. Namur. It's known. It's not very famous. It's known. It was bombed. The house was bombed. They were killed. And I was in the Bichimush. How do you say in English?
Prazaki then became like an orphan, and she took you in.
No, I was in the Bichimush. I went to the Bichimush. That was the story. Yeah, and then when I got out, the house was bombed, and my parents were killed.
You were the bedroom is the toilet. You were in the toilet.
I was in the toilet.
Yeah, and
which saved me. Yeah. So she took me because she was the sister, and until the end of the war, I was alone. I had no sister, no brother. I would live there. And the story was it was a good story.
She made up that story?
No, we made it together. Yeah. We made it together. She told me about, we made it together. Because we had to know exactly, we had to say the same things, I had to prepare myself. When I arrived there, I didn't know one word, or almost not one word of French. I went to school. I don't know how I went to school. I don't know which grade. I think the second, the 2 first classes, or even the third one, practically have not learned. And there were long periods when I didn't go to school. It was too dangerous. After that, it was known. I happened to that the manager of the school was in the Resistance, and
the principal.
Yeah. And he was the only one who knew that I was Jew. And there were 2 other Jews.
And you met him after the?
I didn't, and I met him. Tante Angèle took us with Judith. It was before we had kids, and so the 2 of us, we went there, and it was amazing. And then I knew his son, who remembered me, who remembered my name as my false name.
I think he mentioned that there were 2 other children also in the class.
We went to visit him. He was 80 years old. I was 77. Yeah, and I don't want to call him now because I suppose his daddy was very, 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 very sick. Okay. But
And he knew that you were Jewish.
He knew that I was Jewish. Yeah, definitely.
And you had no idea that there were other 2 Jewish children in the class?
No, I didn't know that. And I got we got the address of one of the 2. The other one is in the States, and one has remained in Brussels. Was even lived in Israel. And I got his name in the area. You know, went to Brussels. I mean, the area. And in the area, I wanted to say the area.
The city, the town.
The municipality, yeah. And and we met with my wife.
It must have been incredible to meet.
It was interesting. You remember, you did? You remember when we met the other Jew in Brussels, and we decided that we would meet. You know, we stopped. Only one meeting was practically enough. We talked a lot. We were there about 2 or 3 hours together. He was very happy. I was. So was I. But you know, many years ago, and we never met again. He's probably dead, and was a bit older than me.
And Ari, can I mention you went to church with?
Yeah, definitely. I went to church. This was the idea of Aunt Angel.
Yeah.
She told me that I have to go to church because it can enforce my.
Because if you didn't go, it would be very suspicious.
My coverture. How do you say?
Your cover. It was like a
cover. Yeah, this can definitely enforce my.
And you joined the choir. You were in the choir.
In
the choir. You sang in the church in the choir.
In the choir. Yeah, definitely. I started singing in the choir. I was. My voice was okay. In Latin. By the way, last year I left. I sang during 22 years in the choir here. Choir of קוראים למקום של המקהלה שלי כפר שמריהו. כפר שמריהו. Not far from here.
And you went in the church, became quite an important part of your life.
This was a very important, definitely. I confessed and I went to communion.
I think you went because...
And I loved it. And very often, when I came there earlier, and I sat down there, and there I thought very much of my parents. I thought about them, just took it easy for let's say 10 minutes, and I felt together with them in the church. Being the only one actually, because I knew that I would be alone, and I did that for a couple of times. Yeah, definitely.
And I think one time you wanted to even confess that you were Jewish.
I confessed. Yeah.
No, but you wanted to even mention to the priest.
No.
At one time you were thinking of doing it, I think.
Yeah, one time when the Germans came, when actually Tante Angèle collapsed. She collapsed, and I understood that I have to live on my own. I have to leave her. And so I decided to leave her, and that's the whole story. At the end of it was quite a terrible story. And then I couldn't leave her. I couldn't leave her only because my parents, and I think I write it too. I knew she's dangerous, and I thought of myself at that time already, very much, more than a normal kid. And I understood because I quite loved her. I didn't want to admit that, but she was so lovely, and we didn't speak. We didn't even eat together in the evening. Sometimes, but the way she looked, she had a very expressive look. I understood her from. She didn't have to speak, so we understood each other, without speaking. I don't remember that I asked her many questions, but she was there. She was there. She's the one who saved me. There's no question about that.
And Ari, when you were alone, because many times when you didn't go to school and you had to be alone, or when you went into the pit, so you had to imagine, in your mind, you lived like a double life. You were imagining old friends and.
No, this is. I would say I came to that conclusion after when I wrote the book. But I did it. Without preparing it, because there were days, and I wrote it down, that suddenly I thought very much about my parents and my aunt and uncle. Actually, I had some nostalgia to my youth, to my kindership. I was I don't know if you say kindership, when I was a kid. And I wanted so much to see them, to have them with me, that I spent the whole day in my room. And Aunt Angèle knew that probably. We never talked about that. She never said anything to me. She never said, "Oh, go to school, or you'll be late." She understood that I have to be left alone. And I was alone in my room. And I spent the day there, and after that, it gave me more and more some strength, to go on with all this, because actually I took responsibility on my own life, which is not usual for a kid. A kid is not responsible. I felt the heavy weight of responsibility. And so when I was in this hole, in this place, at night especially, night was not very, it was cold, and at night you don't see anything. I didn't feel so sure there, and. I thought that, and this hole actually is very ugly. There's nothing. You are,
cramped. You cramped up.
Yeah, but we can even rain, or you're there to protect yourself. Even if you're with a pajama. And then I started, to paint it in colors, and of the good things that happened to me, when I was younger, with my parents, not to be alone, and I thought suddenly about my parents and about my aunt and uncle, and then I talked to them. I spoke to them. We had a normal dialogue. It was interesting how I did it, and it did me good. I played, but this is only a kid who could do that. Play. If I were older, I wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But definitely. It helped me. It helped me feel stronger. The church was very important. This church. We went there the last time we went there, it became a chadar kosher.
It's like
people
exercise with exercise.
The church.
Yeah,
They left part of the decoration outside.
the facade.
And they built a very, very big church very close to them, to that. There's another place. I was part of the group, who we fought.
This was with the Walloons and the Flemish.
That's it, with the Walloons and the Flemish. So I didn't care if I'm a Flemish or a Walloon, but I spoke German, I already spoke French. If you ask me about my French, my accent today, if I speak French, I speak like a French. Even French people can't think I'm French. So it's my mother tongue, kind of mother tongue. But at that time, I had problems with that. And I had problems. I wasn't used to talk. I never talked with children. And here the big boss was 12 years old, I don't know, but he was a boss. And they decided that I would be with the Walloons because that's where we lived. The street, it's a question of street. I said, okay, well, no problem. For them it was important, not for me. And then we came with chains, with when I spoke, the first thing of the first times for me, this was actually the most difficult, to hear my voice suddenly. I suffered from a very great lack of self-confidence. I thought that I would start laughing, and Don Angel always said to me that I shouldn't speak too much French because my French is very German, Austrian. They could hear right away that I speak German, which made the whole thing quite dangerous. So, but I spoke, and then nobody noticed that, and they spoke Flemish, the Flemish. So it was easy, the whole thing. So I could speak, and I said, okay, this way, and boom, it was. And for me, I never played, and I never did that, I'm not gymnastics and all. So I was happy at that time, in a way.
Because you had found friends, and you felt you were part of a group. You were part of.
Yeah, at that time, I only thought about that. Not in the church. In the church, was all connected. When I was at home, it was connected. When I was there, I just thought about the group, So I was a happy kid suddenly, which I was not. And this Belgium, you said, when I saw him, I usually was very careful also. I tried to see as far as possible, to jump into the garden and disappear. After I was the master of disappearing, disappeared. And I saw him, it was too late, because he started smiling, very unpleasant smile. Was a small guy, this mustache, was blonde and blue eyes, very blue eyes, and he was over 40 years, and I was 8 years old. 8-year-old has, first of all, respect for those people. That's it. That's the way I was brought up. And then suddenly he said, "Who are you?" Yeah. "Who are you?" Now he knew it because Anton Gel already told him my whole story. So if this is really but this is not what interests him. He wanted to No, but he was not very, very quiet with me. He thought that I'm not a normal kid. And this was a problem. And when he asks you the question, you know, you can't say, wait a minute, let me think. No. You know, I was terribly afraid. I was terribly afraid, which I tried not to show him. But you know, takes you here. It's terrible, terrible, because you know I knew that if I make a mistake now, that's the end of the story. They'll find me. I knew that I would, you know, disappear, escape, but they'll find me. And then suddenly I looked at my friend. We were two, and this friend who came with me from the fighting. So I said, okay, maybe I know. Normally, very without preparing anything, I said, he asks who I am, and the other kids start laughing because it's funny. Who are you? What do you mean, who now? I'm what I am. And is it important for a grown-up person who's 40 years old? What kind of question does he ask a kid? But all these things, you know, it has to work very quickly. So I said, he asked me where. He started laughing, gave me an idea. He laughed. I started laughing, you know, more than him. Ha 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 ha. Then he asked me a second question, and I don't remember the second question. And I wrote it. I don't remember. But it doesn't matter. It was a question. So I said, okay, let's do the same thing. I repeated the question. He laughed. I laughed. And then said the Belgian. This informer said to me, he smiled, he started smiling. You want to play with me? Okay. And he went. It was, of course, the other kid laughed, so I laughed as long as he laughed. And then I left him. When he went home, probably told his parents, and I came home. I told it right away to Aunt Angèle, because this was something dangerous. But you know, it was the end of my strength. You know, I couldn't go on playing this game, because it was I felt that I was. How would you say? I was finished. You know.
It's draining. It's
emotionally.
Emotionally,
yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, I didn't go to school for a certain period, and then it happened with the Germans, and then yeah, all the time. Actually, I had to think all the time about that. But I felt that I lived. You understand? When the war finished, I suddenly knew that I would now. This is terrible, because you lie yourself to yourself, you know.
Ari, can I just mention, in the book you write something unbelievable, that in the church you met. There was a young girl with her mother, and you developed a very like a connection.
I probably fell in love. I was 8 years or 9 years old, but fell in love with this girl. You know, sure. Even at that age, it happened to me twice there already. Just in '48, after the war, we went to the sea with the. Aunt Angèle. The first time I saw the sea, and the first time I was on holiday, you know, and I fell in love with the girl too. But it remained there. Even and her mother was there, and she said, "No, go and play together." But nobody there to look. They're like kids. And
but in the church, this lady,
in the church,
you felt her very close.
because her mother was very nice to me, and she was very well dressed. I remember, so always. And it was quite special because the Belgian, all kinds of ages. This is a young person with such a beautiful lady, with such a beautiful girl. But I stopped, she was very nice to me, the mother. The mother was very nice to me. She laughed and she. But I felt that I shouldn't have any contact with her because
But at one time you felt you wanted to even tell her. I think you felt you wanted to. That never happened.
No, not to her. No. Only with the Germans came, and when I decided that the Angel will collapse. Mm-hmm. Then I tried to find a place to work in a farm, and sleep there in the farm. I didn't care, but in order only for money, for a bit little money and heat. So and then I asked, and I started speaking because I started speaking to my priest. I said, Father, and suddenly, what an idiot you are! Are you kidding? It's been so hard all these years working only for that, and suddenly I tried to risk my. I left. I ran home, and then suddenly I remember that he remained in the. At this place.
This was in the confession.
In the confession, yeah, it's a confession. Yeah, he's in the middle. Yeah. Then I came back running, and and he was very, very angry, and I knew that he would be angry. But I prepared a story, so I told him a story. And it was okay. He wouldn't have informed the Germans or what that. But when we finished at the end of the war, I told him, I'm Jewish.
You met, yeah.
Yeah, I told him, what? And the only thing he could say, no, I'm very happy that you are here, that you're safe.
This was straight after the war, we had ended.
Straight the first day, maybe. I wanted them to finish with all those stories. And the first, he said, and you take to communion. I said, okay, but this was a terrible thing. With a kid who was 10 years old. I took, this is what, so it was a bit
it must have been
strange.
That was a very strange reaction, and it must have been very hurtful. That
for him.
But for you as well, that...
No, for me,
Oh, disappointing, very disappointing.
Yeah, this is a problem. How shall we... I had to solve a lot of problems, before.
But I think after he said, well, I think he came round to the fact that at least you're alive, and but he was very disappointed.
No, but we stopped.
Yeah.
I didn't go anymore. It was the end. I think I went to the Scouts.
Yeah.
I went to the Scouts, and then the Aunt Angel said, "No, you have nowhere to go. Nobody knows anything about you. You have no family. Maybe you have, but you don't know." I didn't know. I was too young when I entered this place. I didn't ask whom do I have. So I said, okay, I'm alone in the world. Let's stay with Aunt Angel. And the idea was very nice because her husband came back, and he was a charming guy, really a charming guy. The son came back, and he was a very charming guy. We remained friends after that. His lady, new lady, suddenly who came, in the evening together, we eat together suddenly. Lived in a family suddenly. So I wanted to remain in Belgium.
And they made you very welcome. They always made you feel part of the family.
Pardon?
They always made you feel part of the family.
Yes. But then I didn't see them until I was 11. At the age of 11, I left them. The next time I saw them, I was 19.
So if we can just explain what happened. So your family actually had records that your parents had taken you to, and somebody from the family came to the house.
No, she was Aunt Angel. I had no parents anymore.
Yeah.
Finished. I lost my parents. I was 8 years old. And
so after the war, how did you reconnect with your family?
One day. There are two soldiers in the book, and I'm in the middle. And this is part of this. Sorry. This is part of the. This is part of the photograph I'm looking for. Okay. No, I'm doing from right to left in English. Okay, you don't remember this photograph? With
I'll look. These soldiers that came, two soldiers came to the house.
Yeah, two soldiers. That's before. Okay. No, that's before.
Here we go. Here we have. We have it over here.
Oh, you have it here. Very well. Two soldiers appeared.
If you could show the picture. And here you in the middle
from the British Army, and this happened to be my uncle, an uncle of mine from England. Karl was Austrian too, like we were, but he lived in England. He was in the British Army. He spent a few years in Europe in the British Army. So both of them visited me, and he gave all the details to my grandmother. It happened that I had a grandmother in Israel. In '38, when we left for Belgium, all this I knew. I happened to hear it at that age. She received a permit to come to Israel.
British Mandate Palestine.
British Mandate. And she lived here from 38 to 49. She had a son here, a brother of my mother, who lived here since the 20s. So he was, an amazing guy. And he wanted to take me to Israel in 45, 46. But my grandmother said no. And then there's the whole correspondence about me. What will they do? Yes. What will they do with the kid, with the child? You know, it's all.
And these were the original letters that you've donated to Yad
original
Vashem.
letters in German and
And
French.
you've actually donated them to Yad Vashem. The original letters are.
Yeah, this is Yad Vashem have that. And yeah, it's because it's very interesting, you know. I mean, there are some original, you know, it's, all original, and she decided that I should leave this place and come back to the family.
This was your grandmother?
My grandmother, the mother of my mother. But I didn't want to leave them there. I said, no, I'm not mature for that. I don't want to go. She tried to also with two sons of her, two brothers of my mother, who during the war arrived to New York, and they live in New York. But the financial situation was very bad, you know. Another kid, they had small kids already, but and they said, no, we agreed to accept him only if he's ready to work. He has to work for.
And your grandmother said it's.
My grandmother said no, he has to learn. I never learned actually until the age of 10 or. I was very bad, you know, at school. And suddenly an aunt of me from France write to her, and she know, and my grandmother decided that France is good for me. Because in France the education is at a high level, and that's a country, a very good country, France. And she decided that I would go to France.
And Ari, can I just ask you, when you found out that you've got a grandmother,
yeah,
did you feel you you want to go visit
nothing.
her?
I saw her once in my life. She died in 61, I think. So many years after, I never came and see her. She's buried in New Jersey, but I never went, and I went quite many times to the States, in New York, even to New Jersey.
And you never went to?
Never went to see her.
How come? Is it you didn't feel?
No, I never saw her. She was 1 month with us in France.
She came to visit you?
She came in 49 when she left Israel on her way to the States. But she lived in the States until she died.
And here's a picture, I'm just going to show it over here, of your... She seemed a very strong, she went through a lot during the, losing...
She was a very strong woman, and she was the boss of the family, there's no question about that. Because I didn't want to go to France, but she forced me.
She made the decision?
She made the decision, and there's nothing to do.
So if you could just speak a little bit about the family, your aunt that you went to in France.
Oh, they were, okay. They were the most marvelous people in the world. And I loved them like parents, and they loved me like their son.
Just before, was it difficult to say goodbye to your family that you...
No, but I didn't. I actually loved them, but all this happened a few years after. When I came there, I hate them. I hated the place.
When you left Brussels,
yeah,
and was it difficult to leave?
It was very difficult for me to leave.
She came with you?
She came with me by train. It's exactly to the place is called Saint-Étienne. It's near Lyon. Lyon, you know about Lyon. It's 50 kilometers from Lyon. It's very close to Lyon. It's a city. My uncle was a veterinary doctor, veterinary, and I had my wife there. Who loved when she was young, in Galicia in Poland. She loved my father. She loved my father. My father was, of course. So actually, I arrived there, and I had a cousin there who had exactly my age.
Was this Aunt?
This is the aunt.
This is Aunt Hilde.
This is the aunt in France. Yeah.
And I think her
He's
husband. Her husband wanted to be a medical doctor, but because he was Jewish,
no, that's it.
He couldn't get in. But then he did veterinary science.
Then he learned, and he was an officer in the Polish army.
Yeah.
And they tried to. He had a horrible life until I understood when he finished his studies in the army there. He said, "I want to leave." He came to France. He made one more year.
I think he became an officer by default because they had the wrong name. And
they had the wrong name because there was another Kessler who looked like a Jew, but he was not. And my mother, that's the man here. He looks like Lenin when he was young. This is my uncle, Milek. He was the head veterinary in Senegal and what is called Mali today. Yeah. That's the French Sudan.
And here's a picture. We have a picture of him.
And I went to those places.
Milek, yeah, you went to visit.
No, I just went to see where they lived in Africa, in Senegal, in the jungle. He was known in all those places. But then when he came back, and then his wife wasn't ready to get back there, so they remained in France. But I hated them, and I was a very bad to throw me away from school.
I think when you came,
I was very violent. I had a problem with the parents. I broke something. Who said something about Jews or what. I was not a normal kid for about 2 years until I came back. I understood that it all will go wrong if I don't start. Taking myself as I should and start learning, and that's what I did.
But Ari, can I just mention?
Until the age of 14, more or less, I was.
You went with your Scouts uniform.
Pardon?
You went with your Scouts uniform when you went to.
Yes, to show that I have a uniform. The uniform meant something for me.
And I think before the dinner, you would do the cross.
I would cross myself.
Yeah. And you knew that
they had a horrible life, and I knew that they hated that.
But you did it.
I did it because I wanted to hurt them.
But also, you felt alone. It must have been very difficult for you.
I was alone all the time. I was the older kid in the classroom. And I had to remake this classroom. I remained 2 years in this one. I knew nothing mathematics, in French, It was horrible. And they said, okay, we have to throw him. And I was already too old to go to a normal, to a good school, They wanted to send me to a professional school. And my aunt, who was very snobbish, she knew Latin and Greek. And she said, what, you will not learn Latin? No, impossible. Okay, they accepted me. And then I had a few times that they decided to throw me away from, because I'm a very bad pupil and I'm violent.
But Ari, can I just mention your aunt Hilde and Uncle Milek?
Yeah.
When you made the cross, the sign, I think they understood where you were coming from, and they didn't get angry with you.
My aunt was. It was terrible for her. She said, "It's the band of Rabbi Kalman." I didn't know that it was not the band, the grandson. and I came with a letter of the priest. I said to the priest before I leave, I want you to converse me and to Christianism. Well, no. You go to your family. You are a Jew. I said, okay, give me a letter, and I'll go to the. Okay, so I'm ready to do that. So he gave me a letter to the priest of the church, because there's a church everywhere, where we lived in Saint-Étienne, and I gave it to my uncle. Said to me, give me the letter. I'll keep it for you. It will be all the time here with me, and we'll go to the church. But let's start with things that are very urgent. You have to go to school. They would call me, but my French was horrible, and with a Belgian accent. In France, it's they laugh. So they laughed at me because I was older than all of them and the weaker kid or pupil who was in the classroom. So he never said no to me. It was an amazing. He was veterinary, but he was actually a psychologist. He was a smart psychologist, and he said, "Yes, take your time. We'll do it. I promise we'll do it." And little by little, I've made my bar mitzvah, and so I entered this world, and I forgot my letter, and that's that. Yeah, and they suffered a lot with me. I even remember I hit my cousin once. They went to the movie, but they forgot something. They forgot something at home, and they came home right away. And I was so jealous of my cousin.
This was their daughter.
Their daughter was my age. She was brilliant. She played the piano. She looked nice. She was a very good. After she was a doctor. She was a very bright girl. She died a couple of years ago. And at the beginning, I was jealous of her. Why did that? She looked so nice, and I have to fight. And I'm the weakest pupil. She's the best. So on the contrary, it made me angry. And I hated everybody. It took a couple of years.
But it's amazing, they were very understanding. They were very understanding. They could have said, "We don't want, you must take him, what do we need this for?"
That's why I told you they were marvelous persons. And when I decided to come to Israel, and I came here, I visited in 56, the first time I heard of Israel. And I was, I said, "Oh, that's for me." The kibbutz. I spent a few months, and I decided that I'll live here. I was 21 years old, and I was already in the university there.
What were you studying?
Pardon?
What did you study at university?
I studied history, English literature, and I went to a school which is quite famous, which at that time was the most famous in the world, I think, because kids of kings and came from all over the world. Sciences Po, that's a political science, which a couple of years, but this and there is Sciences Po Paris. So that's and I was received. I made at that time I started learning already, and I finished the school. And from that school, usually, if I can go to the foreign minister, and so I came here and I came here and went to the army right away. But after that, I prepared. There's an exam to go to, and yeah.
Ari, can I just ask, with your bar mitzvah,
Yeah.
do you remember your bar mitzvah? Do you remember?
I remember my bar mitzvah. Yeah.
Was that a very important part, significant?
Yes and not. Yes and not. I was very much. I felt emotions, which normally a kid shouldn't feel, because I knew that I thought of my parents very much, and I thought that my father, my mother would like that, That's it goes through, it's not me directly. That was the beginning of my change. And at that time, I decided that I also have to start being, so violent, and be a normal person.
And that was from the bar mitzvah then?
Yeah.
And did other family members
I was
come?
13 years old already.
Did other family members come to the bar mitzvah? Did any other?
Yeah, the whole town, the whole city came. Because they knew that I was a special kid. They didn't know exactly. We went once a year. We went for Yom Kippur, but I don't remember if I went first time. So I made my bar mitzvah. It was full, and they applauded. I suddenly felt a part of something. But it took me some time more. I had to fight with myself. It was really the limit, I think. It's good it happened at that time, because it could have not happened for the rest. Which means all those qualities would help me be very strong during the war, were a handicap for me after that. I was too, I couldn't feel the idea, or that somebody would be my boss and tell me what to do. You must do this. You must, because my uncle was was a serious man, and he said, "Okay, but you have to do that." At the beginning, I couldn't get it. Well, he will tell me what to do. I'll decide what to do. I had a problem with all these things, so I had to fight for stupid things. I lost my time.
But Ari, can I just mention, and I think one of the most amazing things in the book is you mention an incident that you were on the train, and Germans were just,
this was a dream. This was a dream.
It was a dream, but you mentioned, but it had a.
Dreams are, there is a.
Dreams was a very important part of this period for you.
Yeah. And I thought that the dream, that's why it's not. That's a story. I also begin like this, with the dream. I remember myself in Brussels, how I tried to, there were air artillery against the
planes.
Planes close to the school, and I remember we even played. It happened 2 or 3 times. Once I write in the book with the game. We played football with the Germans, and they were 19 years old, and we were 12 years old, or no, not 12, 9 years old. They also wanted to play, so they asked if they can play. They were 4 or 5. But I remember when we went along the way to get out of school, we had to see all those. They were sitting there, you know, with cannons. How do you say?
It's like
cannons. Totachim. Okay. And
machine guns. It's like a type of machine gun.
Yeah, machine guns and even more.
Yeah, to try and down a plane. It's artillery.
And all the mothers said to their kids, "Don't look into the eyes of the Germans. Never look like this. You know, there's a German, walk along." And all walked along like this, you know. And I looked at them, you know, and I was happy. I wasn't afraid of them. You know, I was playing games, and I tried to know. I saw their faces, and I had a mirror in the room. I would do like this, you know, like a kid does. I was 9 years old. But something remained to me, you know. How I have to learn to work on myself, you know, and this is and this is true.
And with your cousin, you developed
my cousin in France.
In France, you developed a good connection, a good closeness.
We were very. She died 10 years ago, and we went, I think, 6 or 7 times. Then she was better. Then we came back, you know. Okay, we spent a few days there from Israel at the time. We were very, very close. Yeah.
So, Ari, you mentioned something which is amazing. In the book, you mentioned that you had heard that there was informers that informed on your parents, and you wanted to go back.
Yeah. And I wanted to. I said, if I meet him,
you'd like to kill him.
Yeah, I was in that mood at the time, and I told my cousin, she's the only one.
But when you went
back, she told me, "You're crazy," and I went there.
And you went back to your home that you were in Brussels.
Yeah. Then I went to see. And I slept there for about 2 weeks. I was on summer holiday.
But you hadn't been back for a few years.
8 years.
Were you in touch? Did you used to write letters or?
No.
So how was the interaction when you went back? And
you know, it's straight. And I understand that Doda Angel waited for our letters, and she didn't get anything. No, I didn't see her for so many years.
But when you saw her
then, after I saw her, I wrote to her from that moment, and I also studied in Paris. You know. In the middle, I came here in 57, 58. I was in Israel. I was in the kibbutz. And I decided that, but I have to see if the kibbutz is. And after 1 year, I came to the conclusion that it's not for me. I didn't like the idea. So I went back to Paris. I finished my studies. I didn't lose anything because I made, I had a lot of friends who sent me all the works. I was in the Falcha. In the kibbutz, but at night I was busy with 4 hours. I studied, so I went back in June. Yeah, finished my studies, and then when I finished there, I came here, went to the army, and normal.
And how was Malik and Hilda? Were they okay that you wanted to make Aliyah?
Who? My daughter, my aunt and my uncle?
Yeah.
They were. They couldn't tell me. I was 20 and something years old. I send almost every day a letter. I went there, and when I was in the army, I looked like a Fatah, you know, like this in the photomaton, you know, automatic. Also, I tried, if I could find, well, I was in Tel Aviv, you know, I would, you know, I looked terrible, but I wanted them to see me, and I wrote to them. And after that, when I bought clothes, you know, a jacket, and I sent them, I tried to make it, and they came every year to see us. Then we married, and they came because I didn't leave. It means no. After that, we went on was on mission, the embassy and embassy of Israel in Brussels. Yeah. So
you were part of the embassy?
And I went to see them, you know, a lot. So we saw them a lot. Then we had kids, and then we came back here. And when we were here, no, I was sent, you know, for I don't know, a meeting with the Belgians or the French or even if I was in Paris for a couple of days, sent by my ministry here, and I was sent all over the world like that.
Well, what position?
And I went to when I was in Paris, I would go to Brussels for 2 days and see them.
And Ari, can I ask, what position did you have with the ministry?
Pardon?
What position did you have in the ministry?
I worked actually in the Prime Minister's office. I started there, and then right away they saw my I don't know, my profile, psychological profile. They decided that I should go to. I'm very happy. I had an amazing career. Not something special, but that was quite high. Yeah, it was okay.
And which prime ministers? Is it possible to ask you which prime ministers?
Yeah, we didn't care so much about the prime minister. Prime minister's office. You know, you don't know exactly how it works. Nothing to do with medicine. But you won't write it, yeah? No.
Okay, so Ari, can I just ask, did you keep in touch with your savior, with Angeline? You kept in touch with her all the years?
Yeah, all the years until she died.
And how did you arrange the Chasidei Mot Olam?
A friend of mine here in Israel, Belgian, what's his name? I forgot his name. I've seen him. His wife died. I don't know if he lived. But he was a very nice guy. He was very active here in the Belgian. But the Belgians who hid and who were hidden, were saved actually by the Belgians, by the Goy.
And has her family? Did they come to Israel? Did they come?
Which family? He, my friend.
No, Angeline.
No.
And any of her family, have they come to visit? Or?
Yeah, my family from Saint-Étienne. Yeah.
No, but also Angeline's family, her son, or...
No.
But you would go visit...
They were all old.
But you'd go visit them in Brussels?
When I was in the area, I was in Paris for a couple of days. Take the train, go to them, and sometimes even spend the night there. Yeah. Sure, I was very... I knew that they would be very, very happy, including the son. I was very, very, very close to the son. The son was charming, but he died. He was 70 and something. their grandson, the grandson of Dr. Angel calls me Little Harry, Little Henri, le petit Henri.
The grandson, sure. And you've kept the connection.
Could be his grandfather.
And you've kept this.
Not anymore. With she has one daughter. We were in contact from time, but you know, getting older, you know, I have enough people, friends. No, I stopped. I didn't write anymore. We didn't. We had. It's not like the son, you know. The son was really a great friend of mine. And Angel's son. Yeah. He was fantastic. So we were, and the wife, his wife, we were very, very close. He died before his wife, and his wife called us all the time. With the wars here, Milchamet Shoshet Yamim, Milchamet Yom Kippur. Harry, come here. I can give you a whole story in my house. You spend your life with wars all the time, wars. So I can't suffer this idea. Also to my wife, she spoke to her. They were very, very nice people. Very, very nice people. You know, don't live the world.
So Ari, if you could show, these are some of the pictures that you have.
Pardon?
These are some of the pictures that you have.
Ben Chatzi Shana.
Is that, if you could show, this is when you were...
half an hour.
Half a year.
Half a year.
And who are you with in the picture?
Pardon?
Who are you with in the picture?
My father.
That's with your father, and it's written in Hebrew.
Pardon?
They wrote at the back in...
Ari Livne. No, that's the handwriting of my wife.
Okay.
She arranged it. She's serious.
It's amazing. And if you could just show any of the other pictures of, because it's really, it's history.
No, it was also my father's. My mother. That's in Vienna. Yeah, that's in Vienna, of course. I'm a baby.
And that was with your mother. Wow. Wow. It's amazing, Ari. And you went back to visit the transit camp near Mechelen, where your parents were deported.
In Auschwitz.
But before they were deported in Belgium, they had a transit camp where...
Malin.
Malin.
I don't write it in the book.
You do, no, you do.
I do.
It must have been very, very emotional.
I've been hundreds of times on the train from Brussels to Antwerp. And it's the middle, 25 kilometers. So and there they say 2 minutes. You know, the train has an arrest for 2 minutes, and we go on. And every time, you know, I felt this, you know, Malin, and I didn't go down. And I could see it. It's 25 kilometers from my house.
Did you ever go?
Pardon?
Did you ever visit?
Yeah, when after the age of 70, when I started thinking of a book, I said to my wife, you know what? I've never been to. It's crazy, and we went there. Since then, we have been 4 times, I think.
So you showed in your book.
Yeah, we have been. It's an amazing museum.
This is,
and we spend the whole day every time there.
But it must be very emotional to see the courtyard and to think that this is.
That's a military camp. Yeah. It was a military camp.
And
Originally, it was an original camp.
And Ari, did you ever visit Auschwitz?
Pardon?
Did you ever go to Poland to visit Auschwitz?
To visit
Auschwitz. Were you in Auschwitz? Were you,
Antwerpen?
no, in Auschwitz, in Poland.
Auschwitz. Yeah, we've been with my wife. Yeah.
Was it very difficult to think that this is?
You know, we prepared the strip for about 10 years, and 10 years we didn't go. And suddenly, from my work, all the elders decided to go to Poland for with a guide and official, you know, how do you say?
Like official visit.
No, official, you know, ceremonies and things like that, you know. And we decided right away. We registered, and we went there with people that we've known for over 50 years, and it was amazing. It was amazing. Very hard. Very hard. Yeah. You know, we went, you know, all along Auschwitz, you know, and to Birkenau, you know, we walked, and there I wanted to remain alone. I didn't go with the group. I went alone, and I decided that I walk in the, how do you call the traces or that my parents were there. Yeah, sure. I tried to make, you know, exactly the tour that they made. I asked exactly what was, how did they arrive there from the train. It was important, very important. We had we have a marvelous guide. Yeah, so it was good.
But very emotional, very, very emotional.
It was, yeah, definitely. You know, again, I'm not so emotional anymore for many years. So, but I definitely, this moment was very strong, yeah.
And Ari,
And I don't like other people to be part of this. When I go to a synagogue or go to the cemetery, I never say. I don't say words. I don't pray. I want to be alone. I'm alone. I don't see anybody else.
But you feel connected. That's where
I feel connected because I think my parents have no tombs, and my uncle don't have the.
They don't have a. They don't have a. There's no kever.
There's no kever. But my wife, on the tomb of her mother, she wrote down that the names of my parents. It was.
And Ari, looking back, what your parents did, they made the ultimate sacrifice by them sending you to this aunt. It must have been very
parents,
difficult.
that's a sacrifice. But they understood that they have more chance to be brought up by a Catholic person, a normal person, Belgian, and not, yeah. Yeah, a lot did that. Even babies, they would in ghetto of Warsaw. I have a friend who worked with me. She's even my age, and she's from Poland. She was a baby. And when she was maybe 1 year, maybe even less, somebody pushed her on the mall, and she disappeared. Somebody took her, and she was lucky and saved her. Not outside the ghetto. and she didn't see. She's never seen her parents. She was very successful at work. She was very good.
Mr. Ari, I just want to ask you, I mean, your story is, there are no words. Your story and what you wrote in your book, it's one of the most profound books I've ever read on the Shoah. It's so real, and it's just absolutely incredible what you went through and how you came out of it and how you live here. But what message do you impart or give to your grandchildren in the future generation? What message would you tell if people ask what you went through?
I gave them a book
but what do you
to read, and some of them read, and one or two I'm not sure, but that's the way. They know quite.
I know, but what advice do you give your grandchildren, or if
I have here. You want to see here? Hoppa. 7 years ago, something like הדלקתי את
you lit the candle.
The candle, but מכון משואה. I don't know if you've heard of מכון משואה.
Sure.
Because I gave conferences there sometimes, quite a lot even. So this is with Ari Livne.
Yeah.
And this is my grandchild and his daughter.
Your great-grandchild.
Yeah.
But Ari, if somebody had to ask you, if somebody asked you what advice could you give to the future generations?
You know, they get along by themselves. They don't ask. They don't ask much. They don't talk even about themselves very much. It's totally in the different, and I'm very happy about that. I talk more with their parents, with my daughter and my son. With them, but even not, they didn't know all the details, you know. When 2 months ago, on the day of the Shoah, sorry,
Yom HaShoah.
Yom HaShoah, my son decided to make a conference, you know, Dor Sheni, it's called, second generation. And every time, you know, I give conferences like this in different places with younger people, and it's important. They asked me to do it, so if I can, I do it. With pleasure. And he asked me to do it, and there were actually there were more than it's forbidden. It's I don't know, there were about in 30, 35 person, and but then suddenly I saw that I was photographed with a zoom, and behind the zoom, I didn't even look, you know. Was my grandchild was there with his wife and other people. There were about another 50 people were there. So. It was a very, very interesting meeting that we had with all those people, especially those who came physically. But they didn't want to invite you too much because it was still. When was that? In April, yeah, during the.
So it's wonderful that you do this, and
this
important.
This was the idea of my wife, of my son and his wife, and they decided to do that. And
Ari,
for them it's important.
this picture on your book, this is a drawing that you...
Yeah, we decided, we looked we looked for something, you know, and we like clay. We like clay. We like clay, and we have a book on clay. So we decided to look at the book, and when I opened, we saw this. And this is, first of all, it was painted in 1935. I was born in 1935. It's funny. When we left the house in Brussels, at the beginning, even before there was this yellow
Star of David.
What do you say?
The Star of David.
Yeah. Even before, because they started with this in '42. But when we left our home, we left it. My mother was the first, and about 50 meters behind her, 40 meters maybe, I came. I went out of the house. I had always a look on her.
You could never go together.
No.
Yeah.
And 50 meters behind me, my father. And so this is like my mother. This is like me. was a kid, and this is my father. But I asked once kids what they think about that, and say he is menacing. He threatens. That's a threatening person. Because he is big, he is red. It's interesting what kids see as kids.
So true.
But it's okay. It's a normal. What the ships did, it's more sophisticated. You know,
So Ari, I just want to thank you. I'm going to show. This is the book that Yad Vashem did.
Yeah.
And I think it is the most amazing.
It's yours?
No, it was lent to me.
Because I don't have enough. I know,
but this book is, it's a double image, and and it's called Tin Soldier in a Cardboard Box, because the cardboard box, that's what you imagine. That's what your imagination, and that's what in a way saved you.
Definitely. There's a lot of things connected with imagination in the book.
Yeah.
You know, the story which opened, the opening story, it's imagination. He has never existed. But you know, I dreamt that there should be a Jew would start, you know, would do something, fight, not, you know, I had a problem with that.
But you always felt that you wanted to be that person that could fight against the Germans.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But I just want to thank you so much, and I really, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot tell you, when I read this book, it's so emotional. You cry when you read this book because it is so real, and what you've depicted in this book is, it's one of the most amazing and profound books that I've read. Not at all, but Ari, I just want to thank you.
Do you want one like this?
I'll get maybe, but it's Ari. Just we're going to end off, but I just want to thank you so much. And I just want to wish you and your family all just at Maybestream in good health.
Thank you. I'll call my wife. I call my wife. She should hear it, not let.
Ari and Judith, I just want to thank you both for inviting me into your home and for sharing your incredible story, your life story.
Well, there's somebody like you who is very, 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 very much but involved with this. It's definitely a pleasure for me to do it.
But Judith, it must be incredible being married to such a hero, because Ari is such a hero than what he went through.
She's the heroine. She's the boss.
Exactly. Who went there?
And how many years have you been? How many years have you been married? Both of
57.
57.
Wow.
We've known For 60 years. No, 59 years.
59.
Yeah.
But,
Many, many, many years.
but good years, and you should
Good
just
years,
you should just
always-
have
always
Mazel
good years.
Brocha and all of Hashem's
Yeah,
blessings
yeah,
and Mevesrim,
Yes.
and just have the. I think
We
seeing
have a
children
nice
and grandchildren, there's nothing better.
That's present, definitely.
And Ari, your parents and your uncle and aunt, and it's so nice. You end the book off with this amazing picture of your parents. If you could just show it, and your dear uncle and aunt that you were very close to. Yeah.
Yeah.
אתה מסתיר את הפנים?
לא, זה לא חשוב,
Okay.
זה לראות את הספר.
So, please God, may their memories be for eternal blessing, and just wish you both all the very best.
We are, I must say, we are very happy to meet you, a very special person.
That's very kind of you. But Judith, thank you so much.
Rare person. I'm not used to speaking English, but
That's wonderful.
I'm very happy to tell it to you,
Well,
that you
thank you.
came to our house.
Well, I am so grateful, and I cannot thank you enough. Toda
Thank you
rabah.
very much.